Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our broadcast this evening. So excited to have you here. My name is Jennifer Kendall, and I am the marketing director here at Summer Discovery and Summer Institute for the Gifted. And we're so glad to have you here. We still have some people jumping on the line, so I'm going to run through just some logistical pieces first, and then we will jump into our presentation. Also, just want to make sure that everyone can hear us okay. So if you could raise your hand, you should have a little hand raising icon on your, I guess, docking station on the webinar. If you could just raise your hand to let us know that you can hear us okay. Want to make sure that everyone can hear. So it looks like we've got some hands up. Awesome. Obviously, sound is important, so thank you for raising your hand. It looks like we're doing okay on audio. Nicole, do you want to just test real quick and make sure people can hear you as well?
Absolutely. So excited that everyone's joining us this evening. So this is my part of the sound check. And again, just raise your hand, click that little hand icon if you can hear me okay. Hopefully, yes.
Yep, we've definitely got the hands up. So that's what we like to see, hands up. So again, just welcome everyone. I think if this is your first time joining us, you may be wondering, why is Summer Discovery and Summer Institute for the Gifted, why are they hosting webinars on college admissions? And just wanted to share, a lot of our staff, a lot of our colleagues come from higher education and education in general. So our organizations, both Summer Institute and SIG, have a ton of knowledge, background, experience in both admissions and education. And so why not share it with you guys? And also, even though we're a summer program, we like to think of ourselves as really part of your students' educational journey. So whether you're with us 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, we want to be part of your journey and provide information as well as programs that are going to help your journey. So that's why we do these things, and we encourage you. We have webinars at least once a month, and we encourage you to stay tuned to our website, stay tuned to your email, because we definitely will have more of these in the upcoming year. But just want to kind of share the format for tonight. We will be doing a Q&A session with Nicole here in a second. We'll be asking basically some questions that she used to get in her role in admissions. We're going to do that for about 15 or 20 minutes. We can go up to 30 minutes if needed, and then we're going to take questions from the audience. So we want this to be interactive and engaging. We want you to ask any and all questions. This is about being authentic, honest, open, so please bring your questions. You should have a question doc on your webinar screen, so feel free to chat your questions in, and we're going to take those in the second part of our call this evening. But I'm going to jump right in. My name, again, is Jennifer Kendall. I shared that I was the marketing director here at Summer Discovery and SIG. I also spent about 8 years in higher education. So something, higher education, college admissions, student life on campus is something that I'm very passionate about. And my colleague here, Nicole Wolf, she also has spent a fair amount of her, career in the admissions office at a university in Georgia. She is a full-time marketing professional now, but she has a background in both psychology and education. And I think one of the neat things and why we brought her on this evening is that she started really as an application reviewer in an admissions office, and she eventually became the assistant director of operations for admissions. So she was responsible for things like admissions policies, admissions requirements, how do you submit applications? What are you looking for in students that are coming to this university? So we thought, why not bring her on and share some of her insider info and help you guys on your educational journey. So at this time, I want to welcome Nicole. And Nicole, if you want to say hey and say anything, and we'll jump right into the questions.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I really appreciate that. Really excited to be here and share the wealth of knowledge I gained for 8 years in admissions, and hopefully be able to help you and your family out. So let's get to it.
Awesome. So I'm bringing you the first question. It's one that when I used to work housing fairs, I came from housing in the university, we always got this question. And so I'm going to throw it out there to start us off, which is, what are the best ways to search for colleges and make my college list?
That's a great question. I think this is where it starts, right? So it's a combination of things. First, you need to tour the campuses, either in person or virtually. Honestly, I recommend do both. Ask questions while you're on the tour, take in your surroundings, watch the students going back and forth between classes. If you visit on a weekend, what's the campus life like on a weekend? And visit multiple times, both early in the search process and then even again as an accepted student. And then another piece of the search is to dive into their website. Yes, you'll go to the home page, you'll go to the admissions pages, and those are the pages that we all want you to see, but dive into the program pages, the university's mission statement, other clubs and organizations on campus that are creating their own websites. And then once you start gathering all that information, then you can really start to dive into making that initial list, and kind of have your top choices and then maybe your secondary plan B choices once you've kind of taken those tours and gotten all that information.
Awesome, super helpful information. I know when I was doing my college search, I toured colleges and things like that, but one thing that I found really helpful, and I think which is one of the reasons that really drew me to summer discovery, is I actually visited a friend who was doing a pre-college summer program at UNC Chapel Hill. At the time, this was many years ago, feels what, 15, 20 years ago. But that experience was really an opportunity for me to see what the college was like sort of behind the scenes, not just the admissions tour, but to spend some time around students on campus, to go to some of the places that maybe aren't on the admissions tour stop. So again, one thing I think that is really great about our programs is we have a lot of university partners, big small schools, Ivy League, private schools. We have big cities, small town. And so I think it's also, a cool thing about our programs is you can experience college life, 2 to 3 weeks, 6 weeks during the summer and really get a sense of, what is a campus like. So definitely check out some of our campuses if you're interested in maybe seeing a little bit more behind the scenes than just maybe the admissions tour or the virtual tour on the website. Nicole, I'm going to ask the next question, and I think this is a biggie because I know on the call we have people all different ages and all different stages of their application journey. But how early should a student or a family start looking at colleges?
Personally, I think the earlier the better. The process can get daunting fast. From an undergrad perspective, I waited till my junior year of high school, and looking back on it, I wish I would have started earlier. A lot of early decision deadlines for colleges will start in October. So really, you can't even wait really till the beginning of your senior year. So that's why the earlier you start looking at making that list, or even just gathering interest, say you're into the marching band and you follow a couple colleges that, do a couple battle of the bands or things like that, start adding them to the list. Start gathering the materials, get on the mailing list, see what the colleges send you throughout the years. And the conversations should also start happening in middle school so that you can prepare for courses and extracurriculars in high school. So there are items that you can work on every year while you're kind of gathering information and starting the college process. So even though it sounds a little out of left field to maybe even start as early as, late elementary school, early middle school, it really does make a difference, especially when you start having those academic conversations to get your schedule ready for high school.
Yeah, super helpful. I think, one thing to keep in mind too is both for Summer Discovery and SIG, we go as young as middle school. So students that may be interested in that pre-college experience can actually start that process in middle school. I know we're typically thought of as a high school program, but again, have middle school options on both the academically gifted side and the Summer Discovery side. So that's something, you mentioned middle school is a time to start even thinking about what courses you might need to take in high school. Again, we have opportunities there for students who may want to take advantage of that. So I hear this one a lot, and I think especially with some of our high achieving students that I'm sure are on the call, they're looking at a lot of different schools. They're looking at, maybe their list is 10, 20, even more schools than that. how do you suggest that a family stay organized when they're looking at, numerous colleges?
That's a great question. I know for me personally, I'm all about organization, so I love this question. First, make a new email address. You will thank yourself at the end of the process when you have one email to be able to check, where you are at the different stages of the admissions process, what colleges are sending you what. In Gmail, you can make folders. So organizing yourself via email and having that singular email address to be able to give your information with, perfect. Now, the next stage is you want to make a spreadsheet or a list, some way to have all of the colleges listed out, and then in the columns, what are their deadlines? What's a first choice school? What's a second choice school? What are the materials that are needed? What are the essay prompts if the colleges you're applying to require an essay? Who'd you ask for a recommendation from? How many recommendations do you need to send for that particular college? And if spreadsheets aren't your thing, again, use the email folders or post-it notes. I have a ton of post-it notes and even a notebook on my desk right now. I live by post-its. So like I said, if spreadsheets aren't your thing and that's a little too much, you can still find yourself being organized, even if it's just writing it down, pen and paper. Centralization of the information is key.
You gave us a little hint there. I'm curious. I'm going to ask a little bit of a follow-up question. You mentioned a separate email there. A question I think I've heard a lot is, can I use my parents' information or email to send to colleges? I think sometimes parents get excited and want to do things on behalf of their students. So maybe just, what was that little comment there about having their own email, and why is that important?
Absolutely. I think having your own email is super important because it shows the college independence. Now, if your email account is a family account, I know we have probably a lot of parents joining us today, and if that's how you want to manage your family style of communication, you want to see the emails coming in and out, that's totally fine. But the important thing is for the students to be the captains of their own ship during the admissions process. If we get communication from a student but we notice it's all their parents asking the information, it kind of shows us, we take a step back and say, can this student really handle this next step? We want them to see them going out on a limb and, taking care of their own applications and their own questions. And I know there are some times where maybe the family has to manage the communication, and they usually tell us that up front, and that's totally understandable. But when we see a lot of things not coming from the student, it does make us take a step back and wonder, what's going on here? So if it's a family account, fine, but make sure as a student, you are managing every part of your application process as much as you can.
Awesome advice there, Nicole. I think this is going to be $1 million question. I know this was something that I struggled with going into college, and still at whatever age I am now, we won't divulge. I still wonder if I've chosen the right career. I think we all wonder that at some time or another. But I think a big question for students, for parents is, does major matter when it comes to choosing a college? How important is that? I think I'll say in my own college career pathway, I felt very sort of pressured by my parents to really have a major picked out and to really know what I wanted to be career-wise. How important is that? How does that influence kind of the college decision-making process?
That is a great question, and I can speak from the same experience. I changed my major when I was in college. It's hard to figure out when you're initially trying to figure out how to apply to colleges and having that list to then choose this program that you feel like you're going to be spending like the first big career of your life on. I want everyone to know that it is okay, one, to not have to declare a major. You can come in undeclared, that is totally fine. Chances are, even if you come in with a major, there's actually very select few that stay with that program. A lot of them will change their major later on. So that being said, if you do decide that there is a program that you want, my biggest piece of advice is to research your major and the general field of interest. And I don't mean researching that major to see if the college has it. I say researching that major of what else is it called? What is the field that you're generally working in? What's the umbrella that that major would fall under? You know, at the college that I worked at, you know, we had the College of Social Sciences. Well, what does that mean? That's psychology, sociology, criminology, social work, everything in that field. So sometimes they'll be called different things. A perfect example I have of this, we saw this happen all the time. Physical therapy was huge. It is a major that a lot of people want to study, but it's not called the same thing across every single college, even across the state. One calls it physical therapy, one calls it kinesiology. Oh yeah, nailed it, A+ word, love it. So know that you're really looking for a field and not what the college is particularly calling it. Also, that field now, you cannot become an athletic trainer, physical trainer, any of that without graduate school. So then what's more important? Making sure the college has that major at the undergraduate level, or maybe they have a great biology pre-med program that's going to set you up really nicely for those graduate school applications when you have to then declare a concentration within that particular field. So it depends. If you have your mind set on something, research it, see what other colleges call it, see what professors are doing their research in around that subject area. If you don't have a major picked out, that is absolutely fine too. Undeclared is great. You will probably change your mind a million times, and really pay attention to the programs if they're going to set you up for that next step, whether it's a job or really more often, graduate school.
I feel like you were calling me out a little bit there. Did you know that my undergraduate major, I wanted to actually be as a physical therapist? Spent 3 years doing biology and then decided, nah, I like writing, so I'm going to be a journalist. So yeah, you will change majors, and yeah, it's super important. That was a big thing that influenced my decision, was knowing that there was a graduate program at my university for physical therapy. Again, didn't pursue that, but again, part of the kind of the whole college selection process. You know, one thing I'm really excited about with our summer discovery opportunities and our growing opportunities, we have actually launched what we're calling a career accelerator. And this is a great opportunity, especially for students who are interested in medicine, engineering, business, or even some sort of coding or tech careers. This is something new for this year. We actually have 4 or 5 new university partners as part of this program. And it's really about diving in headfirst into career focused learning. So really trying to figure out, is this major for me? You know, through hands-on activities, through site visits, through guest speakers. So again, if you're interested in sort of figuring out your major, your career pathway, we do have that new program available. I highly recommend you check that out, especially if you're thinking about one of those 4 areas that I recommended. Really excited. And the campuses, of course, a nod to my alma mater, UNC Chapel Hill is one of many. We have NYU, we have University of Maryland, we have Haverford College. So again, check out the website. I want to keep moving through the questions, but super excited about that new program for people who maybe are looking for more a career focused or major focused experience. So we talked a little bit earlier, Nicole, about the process of applying to college and really starting to think about schools early. But when it comes to the actual application, thoughts around that? Should you apply early? Should you apply early decision? What is kind of the best practice or your recommendations there?
I think the best recommendation is you knowing the portfolio that you're submitting to the institution. Early decision is a great, great system. So is rolling admission, where you just submit your documents and you're getting your decision within anywhere from 7 to 10 business days of getting everything submitted. I think you need to know, are you putting your best foot forward with the early decision deadline? You could submit everything early and be right on time for those October deadlines, but Maybe your GPA could really use that bump because you're doing really great in your classes fall semester senior year and you want to show that off. That is okay too. You want to see how everything aligns with the colleges you're looking at. You know, maybe you need more time for your personal statement. Maybe you haven't found your why yet for why you want to go to that college. So I say take a step back, keep track of the deadlines so you don't miss them completely. And I'm talking even the final admissions deadlines, and really honestly look at everything and say, okay, could I put a better foot forward if I don't go in for early decision? If you do not apply for early decision, it is not going to hurt you at all. Colleges want to see why you want to go there, and they want to see the best picture they can of you as a student. And if that means you miss early decision, that is absolutely okay.
It's super helpful to know. I know a lot of people, I think, feel really a lot of anxiety and tied to that early admission deadline. I think, I think there's a lot of assumption that if you apply early decision that you're an automatic shoe-in. And I think it's helpful to hear that, if you're not ready, if your application isn't ready, it's okay to apply regular decision. So super, super helpful info there. Let's keep moving down the list. I think another question, and this is probably one I hear over and over and over again, and I think there's all kinds of blogs and things out there, but what is the most important part of an application? So if you had to tell these parents and students this evening what they should be focusing on, what would you say is the most important part of that application?
I know this is going to sound like an odd answer, but it's true. It is not your transcripts, not your extracurriculars. It's not the things that we think of. It is your true, authentic self coming through those pieces. Like I mentioned in my previous answer, colleges want to see why you want to be there, why you want to be at that institution, how you're going to find your fit, what are your plans, what makes you tick, your growth, your journeys, everything that has happened from when you started grade school all the way till now, or even just when you started high school. It doesn't have to go back that far. We want to see you. I will say a lot of that shines through in your personal statement. So be authentic and unique. Don't tell the story that you think we want to hear, about the immediate things that come to mind if we're asking you about, greatest achievements or things that come to mind academically. We want to hear your story. So really, yes, your personal statement is important, but it's the true authentic self, yourself, that comes through that personal statement that means the most in an admissions application. Also, have someone read over it and proofread it. I don't like reading over my own work. I know it's weird, but let me tell you, we can tell when you do and when you don't. So make sure that you have someone else edit it, you read over it a couple times, make sure that it is polished. Because again, you want to put your best foot forward and you want your true authentic self to come through. So, and I promise we really do read those essays. They're actually our best insights into knowing you, because everything else is just, things, numbers on paper. That is where you shine. And that's where we want to meet you. So authentic self in that personal statement.
I think it's hugely important too to add there, you want to go to a college that wants you for your authentic self. Like you want them to want you for you, not for the you that you've painted on a resume or on a college application. And I think, you're doing yourself a disservice if you're not being authentic and really saying, this is who I am. And if you like me, awesome, I want to be there. But if I don't jive with what you're looking for, maybe a different college is better suited for me. So awesome information there. And a little tidbit, you do read the personal statement. So again, spend some time there, even though if it may be a little bit painful. I'm going to jump down into standardized tests because we talked a little bit about do grades matter? Courses, yes, they matter. Personal statements matter, but standardized tests, there's been a lot of changes in the past, 2 years. I think I just saw where the California system is going test optional forever. what are your thoughts kind of around standardized tests, and what if the school they're applying to is now test optional? How do they stand out? You know, what's important on that application?
Yeah, it's certainly been an interesting time when it comes to standardized tests. And I think they've always been a hot topic in admissions, really for the past like 20 years. But I think especially now in the times that we've been in, it's certainly come to the forefront. And I'm happy to hear that, University of California system is going optional. A lot of, well, permanently, a lot of schools across the country now are keeping them optional. So here's some tips that I have for standardized tests. If the college you are applying to is still requiring them, you want to make sure that you are taking the appropriate sections for the SAT or the ACT, and that you put the college down ahead of time to receive your scores. I know that sounds scary. Trust me, it's better in the long run because they get the scores as soon as you do. If you were to send them later, it takes a month to get those scores, and that could really delay an admissions application. So a tidbit there. Also, take both. You'd be amazed how differently students test between the SAT and the ACT. So don't feel like one is more important than the other. Now, when we're looking at test optional, keep in mind, and this is key, admissions may not require them for entrance into the university. However, I bet you a lot of people on this call want to apply for scholarships. And whether that is private scholarships or ones through the university specifically. Sometimes even a lot of colleges that are test optional from admission standpoint still require standardized tests to be submitted for scholarship opportunities. You can always find that out by Googling scholarships on each college's website, and it will list out any specific requirements. Sometimes a lot of those higher ones, we're talking, the full ride scholarships or, the ones that mean a lot to the institution. Sometimes they will still require those standardized tests. It's okay if they're old, but just make sure you're looking to make sure that they're not still required for those. This way you're not like kicking back thinking, okay, I don't have to take a standardized test ever again. You just want to dot your I's, cross your T's, and make extra sure.
Hugely helpful because I had never even thought about the scholarship and financial aid side of things. So take note there, guys. I know we have a lot of high achievers, high achieving students and families on the call. Make sure you're looking at whether some of those scholarship applications you're looking to apply for might still require those. So again, we're heading in the right direction, I guess, with the SAT, ACT requirements, but again, they still may be required in some cases. So make sure you know the protocols. An important question, because I know we have families on the call, and I know that a lot of families have very ties to institutions. Does being a legacy or an alumni student matter? Is that going to increase your chances? Do people, are you looking at their application differently if they're an alumni student? So can you speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely. That's a great question because I would get that one all the time. Especially, they're coming for tours and they're like, oh, everything looks so different from when I was a student. We're so excited. If you are making that decision together as a family and you feel like the institution is a good fit for you to continue that, what we call legacy, it may matter to your family, but unfortunately, doesn't really play a role in your admissions decision. Again, we love seeing that excitement. We love seeing our families just live that tradition with the university. Like truly, like it's a wonderful thing to see. But it's only if it's a good fit for your own path. When you're writing that personal statement, I mentioned one of the things is we want to see your why you want to come to the college. We want to see that genuine why. And sometimes we can tell, if you're doing it just because you feel like you want to do it. That's not going to hurt you, obviously, because we're looking at everything. We're looking at the whole picture. It will not make or break an admissions decision. We love to see it, but from an admissions standpoint, it really doesn't play a role. Again, scholarships, though, it can definitely play a role there. A lot of institutions will offer what they call legacy or alumni scholarships. So again, if you're not seeing alumni, look for legacy for an institution. They will sometimes award based on whether or not a student is a legacy student. So that's another great opportunity.
I'm going to throw one more question at you, and then I'm going to turn it over to our audience because I am seeing a couple questions coming in here, and I think it'd be valuable for us to take some time there. But you know, when you apply for jobs, you typically follow up with jobs via reaching out to the hiring managers and things like that. Should you do the same when you apply to college? Should you be reaching out to the college, following up on your application? Like, what does that process look like? Should you, shouldn't you? Any insights there?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great practice to get into, but like we know for job applications, there's a healthy boundary between when it's good and when it's too much. Really, you should have an account or some kind of portal where you've submitted your application, and the university should be updating it with whether or not they've received your transcripts, test scores that they're required, recommendation letters, all of those things together. So you want to make sure that you're checking that portal or whatever that college calls it as often as you can. Now, let's say you're doing that and you're not seeing anything. Official transcripts can take about 5 to 7 business days from the minute your counselor sends it to the admissions office for the admissions office to receive it. We mentioned earlier that if you put the schools down for standardized tests, they get the scores the same day you do. If not, it can take a month. So I say if a couple weeks have gone by and you're not seeing that your transcript has been received, or maybe that recommendation letter is taking a little bit too long and you gave your recommender the appropriate deadline, you know, a deadline that maybe felt comfortable for you that was well ahead of the deadline it's actually due, then I think it's perfectly viable to, you know, send an email, reach out. A lot of the times colleges, you can even just do live chat with their admissions office, you know, send an email, send a text. If you don't want to necessarily jump on the phone, because especially at times of year, you know, you could be waiting on hold for an hour, especially if it's financial aid season. So follow-up is a great thing, but just kind of know those timelines in the back of your head that I mentioned, you know, about 5 to 7 business days for transcripts, depending on when you send scores, you know, the day you get them versus a month. Recommendation letters will take a couple weeks. So keep that in mind, and then keep your reach out to, you know, a minimum. And again, make sure that you are doing the follow-up as a student. Take that initiative. Don't go too overboard with it.
I'm going to jump over to our question box, and feel free, anyone that has questions, chat them in. We're excited to take these. So Nicole, you just mentioned about reference letters. And so we have a question here about how do you select your referrer? How do you cultivate those relationships in advance and over time? So any advice there that you have for our families on the call?
Absolutely, that's a great question. And it's something, you know, as a student that I really struggled with. You know, who do I ask? How do you even approach that teacher or maybe someone you work with in your extracurricular activities? I think the important thing is to have a well-rounded group of recommenders. That's kind of the first part. You know, have a couple teachers. You don't necessarily, maybe it's not necessarily done well in their class. Maybe it's you know, you had them your freshman year, didn't do so great. You had them again your junior year, and you did phenomenal. Or you went to their office hours a lot to ask questions, or, you know, you stayed back a couple days for extra help. Those are some great teachers to approach, or just ones that you enjoy their class. Again, those extracurriculars, and they don't have to be school related. You know, maybe it's something you're doing through your community. Being able to tap into those resources. And I think because we talked about looking at colleges and starting this process so early, you know you're not going to meet your high school teachers until you get to high school. But again, we talked about starting early. Your freshman year teachers, you know, you're not actually applying to college until your senior year. So I'm sure you may see them in the hallways, say hi, stop in every once in a while, you know, talk about your future plans if you're thinking about going to college. And then when the time comes, you've kind of just had those few check-ins. It doesn't need to be, you know, like you've gone and back and see them every single day since you've had their class. And really just, you know, being honest about needing that referral and just keeping in touch. And trust me, it's scary. I'm that type of person where I was like, no, I don't want to ask. I don't want to bother anybody. This is weird. I haven't talked to you in 3 years. But they expect it. So know that it goes both ways too.
Yeah, hugely helpful there. I think, high school teachers expect this. I think that's the big message there. It's like it's not a foreign thing and it's not putting them out. They expect this of their students, and they're probably excited for you. They're probably excited that you're looking to further your academic career. So they're probably happy to help. So definitely don't think of it as a burden. Maybe it's just not, if you did particularly bad or you're particularly terrible teacher that you just didn't love, maybe look for others outside of that genre. But yeah, teachers expect this. It's a normal part of the high school experience. So thanks for answering that. We had a question here about the PSAT and whether or not you feel it's necessary for students to take, and if so, how old do you think, do you need to be to take that?
Absolutely, that's a great question. I think a lot of students, they want some kind of exposure before they get to the SAT or the ACT. And I think College Board does a great job offering that PSAT. I know me personally, when I was in high school, I took it my junior year, but that's when it was first offered to us. So I think that's a great time though. And it's necessary if you feel it's necessary for you. I have terrible test taking anxiety. I was a nervous wreck every time I had to sit down for the SAT and the ACT. And I took the SAT 3 times, and it didn't really get better each time. But having that PSAT experience to know, okay, I'm gonna walk into my classroom. I'm gonna have to, I'm gonna have to show them some form of ID. I'm gonna have to make sure there's nothing on my desk. To run through the paces and the routine of the rules and the environment that comes around a standardized test, I honestly don't think it's a bad idea. The more you can prepare yourself for it, the better. Because really these tests are just, they want to see how you test, not what you know. So I think getting yourself that exposure, it's not a requirement, but I know as talking to someone that has test taking anxiety, I think it's a great resource. And you can keep those scores to yourself and just know that you can feel that much more prepared for when the SAT or the ACT comes officially.
And something that really stood out there to me is normalizing test taking anxiety and that people test differently. I know I was not a great test taker. I did not have the best SAT scores. I was actually an international baccalaureate student. So for those of you familiar with that, everything we did was essay based. So if I could write a paper and tell you an answer, I was good. Multiple choice, couldn't answer the question. So I think it's important for parents to realize that the SAT, ACT tests are not the end all be all. Students get anxious around those things. Some people test better than others. Some people are more, comfortable writing their answers out. So again, I think in bringing awareness to that is huge. And that's why personally I'm excited to see some shift away from the required testing there. I think there maybe are better ways to determine whether a student has merit or value at the university. So I'm going to jump into another question. Let's see. I'm going to try to summarize this one for you, but this person has a ton of leadership experience. And I guess the question here is it more impressive to hold multiple leadership roles in the same organization or to kind of showcase your leadership roles across multiple organizations? And specifically here, they were referring to, they only have maybe 150 characters to explain their leadership abilities. Where should they focus? Should they focus on the number of roles, the increased responsibility in roles? How do they really show the breadth and importance of their leadership and what they've done?
That's a great question, and especially when you have 150 characters, that can be very challenging to summarize your experiences because you want to showcase all of it, right? You're proud of all of those positions, especially if you've grown within your organization at school. That's great. I think the biggest thing you want to focus on is a couple of things, and I'm going to say each one to see which one would be for you to think about what would be a better fit for you. Holding those leadership roles, right when you started at the organization, you came in as a leader. What was that position? And what did that mean for you to get that opportunity so early on in the organization's onset? Or even better, talk about the one you had the biggest struggle with. did one of those leadership positions really present you with the challenge of, do I feel ready? I didn't know this was going to be this much responsibility. And talk about that experience, summarize the growth you've had. Say I've gone from this position to this position in my organization, but I felt like that this particular position in this organization was my biggest growth zone. This is the one I learned the most from. Or I started as, a vice president at, in ninth grade with this organization. This is what I loved about that. So I think it's really more impressive to talk about the growth in leadership, because we know leadership always challenges us at every single level. And it's great to see a leader grow through those positions, but we want to see what happened on the back end of that growth too.
Awesome advice there, Nicole. Thanks for those insights. I want to jump over, we have another question, looks like from Gloria, sharing that they have committed a lot of community service, 200 plus hours. Will that serve as a standout on your application? Is that something that colleges are looking for? And also she mentions that she's taken rigorous courses as a competitive gymnast, but maybe just speaking to community service and the role that it plays in the college application process, and how kind of all of those things when you're taking hard courses, when you're doing extracurriculars, when you've got community service, how do you stand out? What does that look like? What should you focus on?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, first, kudos to you for doing, 200 plus hours of community service, rigorous courses, a competitive gymnast. That is amazing. So I need you to pat yourself on the back real quick for being able to handle all that and pursuing all that. That is incredible. So for the community service part, I think that is a great spotlight, giving back to the community, even through all the time that you're spending, studying and going to class and holding down your schedule at the gym for being a gymnast and all the meets that you go to, and then still taking time to give back to where you are. I connect a lot with that. Community service means a lot to me. Not saying you would be playing up to me specifically as the admissions officer, but I think showing a student that can be that well-rounded and has thought about how do I give back, I think that's absolutely a great thing that will stand out on an application. Maybe talk about, you could tie it into your personal statement, maybe you connected with someone during that community service time, or maybe you came up against a situation that completely changed your lens or the view of your community. You can tie that into your application as well. So I think it's a great highlight, great standout, great thing to get involved in. A lot of times you'll be asked to volunteer, or you see a lot of college students now, they're giving themselves back to their communities locally at their colleges. Service learning is huge. Professors are embracing it. Students want to do it. Students want to change the world. So I think it's something great to highlight and something great to get involved in. If you're able, if you're not able, it's okay. You have other things. You have other things going on in your schedule, and you'll have the time to maybe do it in the future. But if it is something you're participating in, great thing to highlight.
Yeah, thanks for that insight, Nicole. We have another question. I apologize if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly, but Seema is asking, very involved with Girl Scouts and potentially finishing their Girl Scout Gold Award project in ninth grade. But the question, I think, is really more getting at, is a college going to look at that ninth grade accomplishment and give it credit and merit, or really should they push out that accomplishment? Should they look to expand the scope of the project or extend that out and do that more 10th, 11th grade? Are they going to pay more attention to things that have been completed in your later years of high school? I think that's the gist of the question here. So specifically about this Gold Award project, but in general, is there kind of a rule of thumb as to when you should be completing things? What years are we really talking about or looking at when it comes to extracurriculars?
That's a great question. Again, I'm going to give congratulations and kudos to completing the Gold Award. I have a really good friend of mine that completed Eagle Scout, and I know Boy Scouts, only 3% actually make it to their Eagle Scout Award. So congratulations, that is a huge accomplishment. So I think in me saying that, the fact that you accomplished that achievement is a win. As a college, doesn't matter when you complete it. I think it's very easy to think in the mindset of, okay, I'm applying to college my senior year, therefore I only should focus on, what I did in the beginning of my senior year and maybe my junior year, everything that happened most recently. But it's your collective time in high school that you want to showcase, and maybe even things before that. We're looking at your all of high school grades. Why wouldn't we be looking at all of your high school accomplishments? And it doesn't matter if you finished your gold award in 9th grade versus 11th grade. You got your gold award. That is going to stand out immensely on a college application. It's going to stand out immensely on future job applications too. It is something, it shows great leadership, great achievement. So I think the timing isn't necessarily what makes the difference. It's including it in the entire application. Don't sell yourself short on something just because you finished it before when you thought you were supposed to. You finished it. That's what matters, and that's what we want to see. Again, a great topic for a personal statement. What motivated you to be on that timeline? Because maybe you finished it earlier compared to other students in your troop, other students that you know the timing when they get the gold award. So what did that mean to you to finish it early? What was that project about? Having an earlier accomplishment time won't hinder you, and keep everything from high school on your application.
Yeah, and just to add some 2 cents there, I think we see all these amazing accomplishments coming through on the chat here. We also have to keep in mind our world has been in a global pandemic for going on 2 years now, and I would say our teens and youth have been some of the biggest impacted in terms of education and limitations on extracurriculars. So I think even just being able to accomplish these things in the midst of the craziness of the world is a huge accomplishment, not to mention finishing it early. So yeah, definitely include, 9th grade is not to be discounted. It's your whole high school career. And I think especially seeing all these accomplishments in such a challenging time, I think that's even something else that you could speak to in your personal statement. What has it meant to you to have to overcome some of these obstacles? Maybe you couldn't go to the gym every day. Our competitive gymnast here, maybe it was something you had to start doing in your backyard. How have you been, I guess, ingenuitive during this challenging time? So love to hear that, and love to see all these accomplishments that families are sharing with us. Again, if you have more questions, we have about 10 more minutes here. I've got one more question I'm going to throw at you, Nicole. It looks like, and I think this is a pretty popular one and common one, but how can you make your college application stand out? That's from Alessandra. So how can you make your college application stand out? We talked a little bit about personal statements, authenticity. Any other tips that you have in your tool bag over there?
We've definitely seen some different various methods of students trying to make their admissions application stand out. We definitely have, people that have submitted like portfolios. We've gotten DVDs in the mail from students. There's all kinds of things, but I have to say that's not necessarily the way to do it. It really does come back to your authentic self. It's telling your story. That's what makes you stand out. And even just, Jennifer, what you were talking to before, how COVID has impacted everything for these past couple of years, and especially for you all, for your students. There's a lot of stress, a lot of extra anxiety that just feels like it's on top of all of this. Don't be afraid of telling your story from what happened in COVID. And as we're continuing to live through it, I think a lot of students now will think, everyone's telling that story in their personal statement. No one's telling your story. So keep that in mind. And I think that's a perfect tie into how do you make your application stand out? You make it stand out. There's no one magic achievement. There's no one magic achievement of grades. There's no magic courses strung together. It's just you telling your story and why you want to be at that college, why you want to take that major you chose and go into this career to help people or make movies or start your own business. It's you putting all of that together that helps it stand out truly. We review thousands of applications every single year. But those ones together that, could potentially, maybe it made us laugh, maybe it made us cry, maybe it made us smile, maybe we saw ourselves. And you can't get that without putting your authentic self forward. So I know it seems like a cop-out answer. I know we all want that magic thing, but it's true. It's you. You make it stand out. Just put your whole career in school together with that best foot forward. If you say you failed classes and then you wound up passing everything starting your sophomore year, that's amazing. I used to geek out and get so excited when I saw students do really poorly their freshman year and then pull their grades up. I was literally clapping for them at my computer screen when I was calculating their GPA. It's just you. We do it because we want to help you. We're not looking for the dream, the star. We're just looking for students, and students that we know will want to change themselves and the world at our institutions. Like I said, I know it seems like a cop-out answer, I'm sorry, but it's true.
I'm going to read between the lines a little bit there, and I think a key thing you hit on was really understanding that university that you're applying to. So if you're trying to tell them why you want to be there, you've really got to understand what there means. What is the academics like? What is the student life like? What are the professors like? And so I think a little undercurrent there is to really make sure you're doing your research. And if you truly are passionate about a university, make sure you know everything you can possibly know and speak to that. Let them know why you're excited to take Dr. So-and-so's class, or let them know that you've researched the freshman dorms and you know where you want to live because it's got this living and learning community in it. So I'm hearing a little bit of undercurrent of be authentic, but also make sure that you understand the universities you want to attend and make sure you speak to why you want to attend them. So in the interest of time, we've got about 5 minutes left. I do just want to say, if you guys have additional questions, feel free to reach out to us. You can reach out to our info at summerdiscovery.com. Just put a note in there like for Nicole or admissions webinar, and we will make sure that Nicole gets those, and she will definitely send a personal follow-up to you if you have any questions that we did not answer this evening. Also, I just want to kind of remind everyone about Summer Discovery and Summer Institute for the Gifted are great ways to explore college opportunities. That is one reason I'm here. I'm passionate about education, about knowledge, about sharing knowledge, and I'm passionate about our programs because they let students really experience college life, both the residential component and the academic component before ever setting foot on the college campus. So if you are interested in our programs, I would highly encourage you to look at our website, maybe this evening, maybe tomorrow, because we have a holiday savings going on. It technically ends tomorrow at midnight. However, I was told that if we get applications in tomorrow, if you start an application, we should be able to grant that holiday savings to you if you can get that application started or in sometime tomorrow. Even if you can't get your enrollment in tomorrow, because we do require a number of things like grades and recommendations. Maybe we can't get all that in before tomorrow at midnight, but if you start the application, we will grant that holiday savings to you. And it is a pretty nice benefit. It's $200 off of a 1 or 2 week program for Summer Discovery, $400 off 3 to 6 week programs for Summer Discovery. It's a little bit different for Summer Institute for the Gifted, but I would just suggest checking out the website. If you have questions about programs, again, give us a call tomorrow. Our team will be in the office, happy to answer questions. If you want to talk to Nicole more, I hate to throw Nicole out there, but call us. Nicole can take a couple of calls tomorrow if you're interested in chatting more about college admissions. And I am going to repeat that email address. It is info, so INFO, at summerdiscovery.com. just make sure in the subject line or something you reference the webinar or Nicole for Nicole. We'll take some more questions if you have them. I know some people have very specific questions, so feel free to reach out. We're happy to help. Again, I think one of the things I'm passionate about is that our company really cares about your educational journey. We're here to help every student find their pathway, whether that pathway is business, whether that pathway is medicine, whether that pathway is taking a year off from school to really figure out what their pathway is. We want to help you. So please give us a call, shoot us an email. We're here to help. And also, if you do start your application tomorrow, either for Summer Institute for the Gifted or Summer Discovery, we will go ahead and give you that holiday savings, even if you can't get all that info in, because we just talked about admissions and we know that, I don't know how long it takes to get a transcript to Summer Discovery, but we know that it can take a while, at least on the college side. So we're going to give you a little bit of grace period. Again, thank you all so much for joining us. I want to thank Nicole again. You have shared a wealth of knowledge, things I didn't know even being in higher education. So thank you for that knowledge, and thank you for your passion that you bring to the company and to helping our families. So again, we're wrapping up for this evening. If you have questions, call us tomorrow, shoot us an email. So happy to have you here, and thank you for letting us be a part of your educational journey. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.